Hey, good evening, everybody. This is Sal, and I am doing a solo hosting version of Betwixt the Shadows this evening. Normally, we would have Renee here with us, but because of some technical difficulties here in the Los Angeles area, in her area, I guess she has lost electricity. She got it back up, but the internet's not going to be coming on for a while tonight. So it's just going to be me and you and the rest of the people out there in the world that are watching the show. Today, we're just getting through Christmas. This will be the last episode of the year. It's kind of weird. I'm here alone right now doing this with you guys, but it's been a rather busy week for me. Made it through the holidays, and now we're closing up the year. And then next week when we come back to you guys, it'll be the full crew, and we will be going forward as we should. But since it's going to be me tonight, I would like you guys all to know you can send in questions through the evening. That'd be totally great. And I can try to answer off as much of them to you as I can. So just please send in your questions. And we are going to go ahead now and just jump into the first ones. Before we do that, though, I'm not the astrologer, as you know, so that's Renee's world. And I won't be covering that segment tonight, of course. But I am here for all your spellcraft and witchcraft and magical questions. So please feel free to reach out to me. First question of the evening. I'd like to know who this is actually from. It says, Sal wears such interesting clothing and jewelry. Well, I've always been a weirdo with my clothing, so I kind of wear what I feel like I want to wear, not by the standards of what other people think I need to wear. And I'm not quiet about it. I very much shop in the women's section. I like clothing that fits my body well, and I think it's sexy. It's kind of fun to wear. So I'm all about androgyny and mercurial. The whole aspect of Mercury for me is really important, very fluid. I love the fluidness. My whole life I really wanted to get the point across that people shouldn't be judged by what they wear, and I always wanted to make that statement. So it was never about a trend for me. It was just truly about, you can't say what or who I am, pertaining to what I'm wearing. So as a youth, I was that way. As an adult, I'm that way. It's no secret that I have more high heels than my wife. That's actually not true. She has way better heels, more expensive ones, but I wear mine more. I like wearing leggings. I love wearing stuff that's just sexy and fun to wear. So that's definitely where that comes from. But as for my jewelry is really important to me because, first of all, it's not just something I wear for aesthetic. Everything has a meaning, especially my necklaces. My necklaces are very much important to who I am, and I'm very ritualistic about how I put them on, how I take them off, things of that nature. But more specifically, different pieces. So people are asking specifically this one, what's going on with it? So obviously, this is very known by people that are practicing Satanists, people that are studying the Levian aspects of Satanism. Traditionally, this necklace, essentially, what it means is Lucifer coming down to rule. Because when he was cast out of heaven, he's the lightning bolt coming to the microcosm that is Earth, and ruling here. But I've never seen Lucifer as a negative entity or deity. He's divine intellect. He's smart. He's beautiful. He has knowledge. He pushes the envelope. So that's one of the reasons I wore it. At the time I got it, I was studying LeVay's work, and it was made for me by an ex-girlfriend, and I got it made to the exact specifications of Anton LaVey's one that he wore. So that's where it comes from. But at this point, it just symbolizes who I am. It's the flow of me. It's a protective sigil for me now. It's a protective amulet. It's something I've got in wearing constantly. Behind that is one of the most important pieces I own. That is the strophalos. The strophalos is also known as the wheel of Hekate. And it's also connected to the linges, which is actually a bird from Greek times. It's the spinning, whirring wheel. But when you look at the symbol, what you're seeing is the star, a small star in the center. Actually, what you're seeing there is wax, because I used it to mark something magical. But that piece there is the actual star. That is Hekate. And the path, these lines around it actually connect to the 3 realms of Hekate. And also it represents the path that you're on in life and how she guides you through them. On the back side of it, it's got a specific key or sigil of Hekate to work with her in the chthonic realm, or the underworld realm. This piece here was given to me for my birthday by my lovely wife. It's actually Hekate in her triple stasis, or a triformous state. This is her it's her 3 exact images of herself. It's not the triple goddess. It's actually Hekate in all forms, in the 3 forms. And this was always at the front of a village or a town in Greece because it protected the village when they came in. The other piece that I'm wearing specifically, this is tapping into my Italian heritage. The first one is the Malocchio. The Malocchio is a horn. And a lot of people that aren't in Italian culture thinks it's a pepper, but it's actually not. It's the horn that we wear to protect us from bad luck. It's also used it's used in Italian lineage as some people made them a little bit bigger, and they would hollow them out and they would put the earthly remains of a loved one, like ashes. They would put it in it and seal it on top of the crown, and they would hang that in their house for protection from anything that was coming in. Also connected on that is the corno, the horns. Okay, and this is to give the evil eye. If you fuck with me, it's coming back at you. A lot of people think, oh, Ronnie Dio. Well, it's a little known fact that Ronnie Dio, whenever he did this back in the old days, he was actually doing that to his grandma, because she would do it to him. It was their sign that whenever he was on stage, that he was protected. And so kids saw him doing that, and then everybody started using the devil horns in metal in the 80s. The last piece on here is the Simaruta. The Simaruta is actually a sprig of rue, which is a very magical and a very Hecatean plant. On it is the crescent moon, the moon of Diana, the key of Hekate, and the flower from the rue. And the flower is the 5-pointed star or pentagram. And then there's the fish, which is the male generative symbol. So this is all Italian witchcraft here. Then my mala beads. These are actually ebony beads that I love to wear. I took the end off it because it just didn't jive with me. I wear that, and then it goes onto my rings. I actually am really happy to say that today I bought my 3rd ring by Alex Streeter. Alex Streeter is the guy that made the jewelry for Robert De Niro in the 80s movie Angel Heart. If you haven't seen it, watch it. It's a great film. But these are the Angel Heart rings. They're rather expensive, but I have the black one on my left hand because it's for cursing, and then the right one is for protection and for invoking some positive vibes when I'm doing certain work. The middle one is the Gorgon. A lot of people call that Medusa. Medusa is one of 3 sisters. The other is Uriel and Stheno. And in the system of witchcraft that I practice, they are guardians that I can call in if needed, and they're always protecting me. The other one is the awesome wedding band, and the baby ring is from a really dear friend that I haven't seen in many years. And that one is just a filler. So eventually a couple of these are going to go. Oh, and this last one is actually made by Alex Streeter himself, the guy that made the Angel Heart rings. And he gifted me that when he came to my store. So that's the story of my jewelry. Jewelry has a lot of significance for me. It really, it protects me. It is me. When I'm no longer in this world, it's going to go with me. But I'm always wearing it. So I hope that answered your first question. So the other question I have next is, wow, we got a lot of questions. Stands out. Is that from, yes, I answered that, or they didn't tell it. Okay. Okay. What are your best lazy rituals? I try not to ever be lazy when I'm going into ritual. Ritual for me is a very sacred act. It's very important for me, and I would never do them lazily, because every one of them is so poignant and important, and is such a staple in my life that I don't have any lazy rituals that I do. They're all done with pure energy every time I do them. The other question is, can you charge crystals and moon water in the window, or do they have to be outside? I believe, especially in city living, you can totally have them in your window. Sometimes it's not even as much as we want the moon energy. It doesn't have to be, as long as you're keeping it near it, the moon's rays will come through, so it doesn't have to be perfectly open. I've also used the roof of my homes. I put things up high outside at night, especially because nobody will get to them up there. So if you have that, that's a great place to actually put stuff to get consecrated. And the moon is so, strong. At that point, you can actually charge stuff right there. If you have a balcony, that's also great. I've been wanting to try astral projection, but I am a little scared that something could follow me back. Any tips for staying safe? Yes. First of all, you should be meditating a lot. Really take your time with that. And, do your best to not fall asleep. But one of the things you can do is, set up some type of consecrated space. So when you go into this realm, you are protected. Carry a sigil or some type of amulet that you've consecrated for those reasons. Wear it on you. Another thing that you can do is also fashion yourself a simple cord and tie it to the waist, and then let it stray off along the side of the bed or whatever you're laying on to go into that, and that will always help you come back. It's like an umbilical cord. Sorry, I'm playing with my hair so much, but I'm eating my hair as I talk. I know it's a little weird, but definitely create a simple cord, a simple brown cord, and braid it, buy it, whatever you need to do, but have that trailing off you when you lay down, and you'll always know that you can come back safely that way. That is, one of the main things I usually tell people to do when they're astral traveling. Thomas Frank Rodriguez asks, are you familiar with Andrew Chumbley and the Azoida? If so, what is your experience? No, I am not. Sorry about that, Tomas. I will definitely look into that afterwards and get back to you on that in the coming weeks. There's some systems that I don't know, but I will definitely check into that for you. And if you're studying it, please tell me more about it, and we can discuss this next week, because I would like to know more about what this is. Is it a form of Goetic magic? Is it Solomonic? Please give me some answers, and if you can, email me with any information you have on that, and I will check into it myself. What does the witching hour really mean? The witching hour is, they're hours, I think. But the witching hour is usually anywhere between 12 o'clock and 3 in the morning. It's that 3-hour time frame that's kind of in, not to play off our title, but it's kind of betwixt in between. It's that that twilight time. It's that time that you can move within the realms magically. So that's basically where the witching hour is coming from. It's a high point of time in which you get your witchcraft work done. And segueing from that question, tonight I'm going to have our first guest, and that I'm sure the guest that I'm going to be having will be able to answer that as well. We have yet to have a guest on here. We've had a co-host who was Mia when Renee couldn't come in. But this is going to be our first official guest. There's so much to say about who I'm bringing on. It's kind of crazy because I'm going to actually interview her a little bit tonight before we get freeform. But she's a friend. She is a magic partner. She is a talented woman. She's a strong woman. She's a woman with a lot of great information, great fashion sense. We're both products of the 80s. We're both from the same generation. Only she's technically a Gen Xer and I'm still a boomer because I'm a little older. She's a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful worker of magic. She is a teacher here at the Crooked Path. She does great classes like Deity in the Details, which is where she picks certain deities and really expounds upon their realm and what each of them do. She does all types of witchcraft. She's a traveler of Europe. She actually ran the tour that we did in the south of France through the New Moon tours that we do here at the Crooked Path. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to bring to you now Scarlett Amaris. So let's see if she pops on here and we will tune in with her. As we're waiting to see. There she is. She's making it work. She's maybe not. Oh, there she is. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Scarlett Amaris. She's a very dear friend of mine. She is an author. She is a writer. She's a screenplay writer. She had a great movie out this last year that actually hit Hollywood, and she's becoming a very big name in a couple different places in the witchcraft world and in the Hollywood world. So, ladies and gentlemen, Scarlett, how you doing?
I'm good. I'm good. Thank you so much for having me on.
So weird. You're like my sister, and I'm interviewing you. It's actually awesome. It's an honor. You're our first official guest. I'm sorry that Renee can't be here tonight, but I mean, I know so much about you. But
I know I'm slightly terrified that you're sitting here.
Yeah, I know. I'm like, what am I gonna say to you? But you are definitely my blood. We've done so much together magically. You're one of my wife's dearest friends, but I want to come at this from this side of it. Scarlett, like, where does witchcraft come in for you? Where did you come into witchcraft?
I honestly think that I was born into it. I'm not one of those people that can say, oh, my family was in Salem, or I trace my lineage back wherever. Like, I don't. But, as a kid, some of my earliest memories are like, picking up pebbles and putting pebbles together and drawing circles around things for protection and just doing like weird, creepy kid things. And I was a weird, creepy kid,
Mm-hmm.
I can remember my grandmother when she was alive was like, didn't like me because she was like, she stares holes through you, and
Mm-hmm.
I grew up on this horse ranch. And so I spent a lot of time with animals and I spent a lot of time out in nature. And I think I just developed those relationships and I kind of saw the world a little bit differently than a lot of people did. And so the idea of working with the elements of nature, the idea that there's something more beyond this world that is intangible, that there are currents that we can play with, that, that there are different levels and different ways of seeing things, I think was always something that I believed even as a child. And
Mm-hmm.
so I think it's always been with me.
And how do you describe witchcraft to someone?
Wow,
that's not us. Like, how do you describe it?
I always hope nobody asked me that question.
Mm-hmm.
Witchcraft to me, it's cause and effect with will. It's changing something with elements and with your will. But for me too, witchcraft sometimes is being out in nature and that feeling that I get where I step out of time. And then I I can choose to affect with that, or maybe I don't. Spell work is when I really go in and, do the work that needs to be done. But, I think witchcraft is spell work, which is a little bit more methodical, but it's also this sense that you have of when you step over the hedge, or when you step between, or when you go to the other world. I think that would be my definition of it as well.
Okay. And now, once you realize that you were this way as a child, um, how did you start getting actual knowledge on actual workings and stuff like that? Where's your background on that?
Yeah, so I read a lot. And when I left LA, like I had to move, my parents moved to a suburb of Chicago when I was 14, and I was super, super pissed off. Very conservative suburb, and I had never experienced anything like that before. But it had this great library, and I don't know who was running this library, but it was like there were, Aleister Crowley books in there, and that's when I first saw Una Woodruff's Witches and Erica Young's Witches, and it had this great witchcraft section. And so I spent the whole winter, like I hated the school, I hated all the people around me, and I just immersed myself in all the books that they had. And then after that, once I started to become part of the culture in Chicago, then I got hooked up with people there and started to, do classes through I'm trying to remember what the name of that bookstore was. It was on Clark Street, and then it moved.
Didn't you guys have the Occult shop? That's like the oldest occult shop in the country.
The Occult bookstore, yes.
The Occult bookstore, yeah. I've heard great things about that.
Yeah, and so like I took some classes there, and I met some people there, but I didn't really like do coven work. I did mainly like solo work, and I'm very shy. And I was also a part of like that industrial scene and that rock and roll scene. And like everyone around me wasn't as into it as I was. And I was also really interested in shamanism, and I was really interested in esoteric Christianity, not just straight witchcraft. I was really interested in all mythology. And so these were the things that fascinated me. And so those are the things that I really studied. And it wasn't, until I got over to Europe that I really started to do coven work and started to really, work with the people.
Well, this is one thing that about you. I mean, I'm lucky that I always get to learn. That's one of the blessings of my life, is that I get to be around people like yourself. And, I know I have a lot of knowledge, but there's a lot I get to learn still. And, I know you pretty well, but I can honestly say that when you're in Europe, you're alive.
Yeah.
And it shows. It's emotional for me, even because the way Europe moves through you, France moves through you, and I joke with you a lot about it, but in reality, it's amazing how it like magnifies your magical abilities, because you already have those amazing abilities. But I know you've talked about even being in Britain and learning there. These are things that I never got. I'm straight up an American that's married to a European, but I never had that experience. My first experience of Europe outside of Greece was with you. So what do you think it is that makes Europe do this to you, and what is the draw?
Well, I mean, I know, so I spent many, many years in Montségur, and Montségur is a very small village in the Pyrenees, and it's where the last stand of the Cathars happened, and it's possibly the Grail Castle. Like, there's a lot of mythology, and there's a lot of history in Montségur, but even that area is so steeped in, the Celts were there, the Iberian Celts were there, and, some of the oldest, the Sorcerer of Troyes, right, but is just up from there too. And that's, the first anthropomorphic depiction of a sorcerer ever, you know what I'm saying?
Wow.
Like, and
I didn't know that.
Yeah, that's the first time where, it's so magical, where man just said, okay, this is a magical being. Like, this is where we begin the practice of magic. And that area is so old and so wild that it still has a heartbeat. It, you know, those gods still resound there. And, you know,
For
Montsador
sure.
Castle, and I've made a documentary about this, and I've talked about this many times, but it's deeply strange. It does deeply strange things. Time acts differently there. We used to joke and call that area the zone because it was like living down a rabbit hole. And I think it's because it's so untouched. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, and when you're doing rituals in an old Celtic oppidum that is completely forgotten by the world, like, but you're still there with the Roman amphora that's just scattered everywhere. Like, it brings a resonance that's hard to explain, you know, but it's intense, it's potent, it's powerful.
So is it like that as well? I mean, maybe not more, maybe not even, I'm not looking for a more or less, but like when you talked to me about like working with the Druids in Britain, the modern Druids in Britain and being at Stonehenge, was that magical there like that as well?
Yeah, you know, in a different way. I think Stonehenge, you know, it's a little more popularized, but I have to say, like, being there, it was a few years ago that I was there for the winter solstice. And I was there with Una Woodruff, who's like one of my most favorite people in the whole wide world. And she's such an amazing occultist, an amazing witch, an amazing artist, and just such a personality. And being with her early in the morning, and it's foggy and it's rainy, you know, and we're in the Druid's robes and we're running up, like, you know, like I'm holding her hand and we're running up to Stonehenge in the fog. And like my heart stopped beating, you know, like this was my childhood fantasy come to life. It's just such a crazy moment. And to be allowed to go up and touch the stones and then stand with the Druids in the center of the stones and call in, you know, the solstice and call in the sun. Yeah, it is an amazing moment.
Is that who I hear you reference your witch mother a lot? Is that her?
Sort of, yeah. I don't think she would talk about that.
Yeah, well, you brought that up once. You said you have a witch mother that you knew in Britain, and I was wondering if that's who you're talking about, or you looked at her that way, or
sort of. I mean, I learned a lot from her.
Yeah.
That's for sure, yeah.
Okay. These are things that, you know, I've never seen that side of Europe. I've had a calling for Britain my whole life. I don't know why. I mean, being Italian, you know, you'd think I'd be wanting to go to Italy right away. But I'm half Italian. My mom is Scottish English. Yeah. You know, her last name was Moore and then became Sloan, you know, through her parents. So, you know, they're very much from that area. And my whole life I've been studying Britain. You know, I'm really obsessed with the Queen and with the royal family and the lineage of Britain and the growth of it all. So I've always had this aching. Actually, I was hoping that I was going to get to be Summer Solstice 2020 was supposed to be with you in Glastonbury, right? Yeah. With Sarita, because I was going to get to meet Sarita the first time. You know, super important.
Yeah, we'll get there. I mean, there's a bunch of places in Britain that I would love to show to you. You know, different bow downs and
that just gets me.
Yeah, and I want to talk with Una about it too, because she knows all those places. Like she's taken me so many places around there that are off the map. You know, and you'll look up there and you'll be like, why is it so weird here? And you're at this crossroads and you're looking at the trees and the trees are all twisted. And she's like, this is where they used to hang the, you know, like hang the you're like, oh,
wow. This is where I would be. Right there. Wow, that's so amazing. There's just so many great things. There's so much I want to ask you. I mean, as well as I know you, there's so much I just want to bring to light with you. You have a lot to offer. You know, you really do. I mean, I know a lot, but you know a lot. I mean, your way of knowing time frames and history. Your history is amazing. The way you know stuff. You know, I quote you constantly in my classes and work that I've done. You know, so like everybody knows the store to be Hecatean or working with Hekate. She's a huge part of it. And I want to touch base with her on that. But let's circle away from the blatantly obvious witchcraft questions. And let's talk a little bit more about Scarlett Amaris, the writer and the screenwriter. I have a lot of problems, and I speak my mind, and people that are listeners are getting that concept down pretty well, I think. But I really hate the way media represents witchcraft and the occult. And you are a person that can change that. What are your views on how it's seen in movies, and how do you feel this could be altered for the better?
I think education, and I think just getting people that have a better clue about it, which I guess goes hand in hand with education, and not being lazy. Like I see so much lazy magic where it's like, did you just look on Instagram and like,
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
really?
totally.
Do you really, but then there's shows that get it right too. Like, I have to say, I was privileged to read the pilot of Salem, and when I read it, I was like, holy shit, good job.
I love that show.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like, and
Yeah.
I know they did their homework. You know what I'm saying? And it shows. It's obvious. It has that authenticity to it. But I was looking at I shouldn't name things, but I was looking at something that's coming out soon that's a reboot of something else, and it was like sparkly, twinkly things, and I was like, why go there?
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, and I really want to see, I want to see movies see what we are. And,
because a lot of what we do isn't sensationalistic.
No.
You know what I'm saying? And
very mundane.
But, yeah, I know, but mundane doesn't play on the screen.
Yeah.
Mundane doesn't work on the screen. And, I have to say, like, I love like that 70s hammer horror, like the devil rides out, like
for horror's sake, sure.
Yeah, but give me that stuff every day, any day of the week. But I have a little bit of a higher tolerance for like Sabrina or whatever else. But I know you get, but
I get really weird with that. But yeah,
but it's just like campy and silly.
It is. Well, I mean, and you're seeing, right now the world is all about witchcraft again. I mean, early in the 90s, I was going through that with someone that we both know. Farouza Balk was my employer, and my best friend, who's now dead, his girlfriend. Great girl. But I mean, we had the climb of the craft in the 90s, and then it dropped back down and became namaste and became yoga, and now we're back into witchcraft. And I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
But I don't think that it's not really witchcraft. It's new age is what it is. The new agers have co-opted like a slightly darker, scarier feel, but it's all just the same new age rhetoric. And they're just labeling it as witchcraft. And I mean, it's one of those things where it used to be like you would be part of a coven, and you would, first degree, second degree, and you would have some sort of lineage, you would have some sort of accreditation or whatever. And nowadays you're just an Instagram platform. You can say whatever, there's no authenticity. And so you get a lot of this bleed out and just this bullshit. And it's all like how many followers you have or what your platform has. Like, who gives a fuck? That's not fucking witchcraft.
Yeah, it's not.
That's somebody like espousing, like, I don't even know what they're trying to do. It doesn't make any sense to me. Witchcraft is deeply personal.
It's visceral.
Yeah, but it's also deeply personal. It's not, ooh, wow, I'm gonna try this out today. Ooh, don't I look cool? It's like, you know what? I get up and this is the way that I live my life. Like, you and I work similar magical systems, and so like I work with these deities on a daily basis.
Important.
It's important, and the way that I do it is important, and that's not sensationalistic or bombastic or whatever. That's my mundane everyday work, but that's the commitment. And if you don't have commitment in witchcraft, don't fucking bother.
Yeah. So another question, in Hollywood question for you.
Okay.
What are your thoughts on all these reboots?
I'm not a huge fan. I think it's lazy. I've seen a couple that I think if you have a really new original idea on a reboot, it's great. But most of the stuff, if I see it's a reboot, I'm generally not going to go see it. I'm really not that interested. It just strikes me as lazy.
But see, like for me, like there's certain films that I love that I know you love, because we have similar taste in a lot of these things. And I'm going to say the word, and I've got one of my clients that comes in the store that is trying to get me to sit down and watch it, and I haven't yet.
Okay.
And Suspiria. I'm an Argento fanatic. You know what I mean? I love Argento.
You're talking about the reboot?
Yeah.
Oh, it's terrible.
I'm so scared. And I love Tilda Swinton, but that freaks me out, man. Don't fuck with Suspiria.
Oh my God, I absolutely love her, but it's so, I give the director credit in the fact that he tried to make something completely different and didn't try to copy Argento, but it's so bland, but I'm a Suspiria fanatic. I can tell you what's in the wallpaper. The name of Elohim are written in the wallpaper in that last scene because I've watched it frame by frame. I'm obsessed with that movie.
Yeah, I like opera a little more. Opera's my favorite.
Really?
I love opera. I loved opera. Yeah, I love Argento though. I do. I think he's amazing. So what are some for the younger people out there that want to see really good occult in films and witchcraft? What would you suggest that are older films that are good to watch?
The Wicker Man.
Original?
Yeah. Oh God, I haven't even seen it.
I'm like, really? I'm like,
I know that I know that Nick Cage is in it, but I haven't actually seen it. Yeah, The Wicker Man, Devil Rides Out, Blood on Satan's Claw, Black Sunday.
Black Sunday. Trilogy of Terror.
Yeah, that's fun too. Simon, King of the Witches. I know there's so many that I'm forgetting right now, but like those old Bava films are have some pretty great stuff.
What about Kenneth Anger?
Or Kill Baby Kill. Yeah, Kenneth Anger. Sure.
I love Kenneth Anger. But I loved him because it's documentary style. It's not so much Hollywood. And when you watch Lucifer Rising, I mean, being a ceremonial magician nut as well, I'm watching them do exact rituals. And I love the way he shot them. They're beautiful.
Yeah, he has a very distinctive style. And I think that if you're a budding occultist, it's important to see that.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And if you're trying to develop your own, the thing that I love about Kenneth Anger's work is that it's immediately identifiable. And I think that that's important. I think that that's something that's really been lost in the age.
For sure. Like Inauguration of Pleasure Dome is like Marjorie Cameron.
I know.
Oh my God. Marjorie Cameron.
A hero. I've been obsessed with her since I must have been 19 when, remember when that book Apocalypse Culture came out?
Hot, yeah.
And I was just obsessed by her and Jack Parsons. And I had a friend in New York who had some of her old drawings and wow. Oh my gosh. And you really couldn't find anything about her back then. I was so excited when I came to LA and they had that major exhibition.
With her tarot cards? I didn't get to see it. I missed it.
I had just gotten into town and it was so great. But yeah, fascinating woman. Yeah, she's definitely got it going on. I talk about a strong presence. Her on film, she just eats it up.
Yeah, you can when you watch Inauguration of Pleasure Dome, not to date ourselves back to the 80s, but you can see where Annie Lennox got her look.
Oh yeah.
The Eurythmics, Annie Lennox with the bright red hair, you could totally see that was, she pulled that concept off Marjorie Cameron. And I love it when I forget the actor, he's eating the jewels.
Yeah.
He's eating his jewelry and stuff. Oh my God, it's so beautiful. So
Marjorie Cameron is someone that I would love to have. When they always ask you who would you like to invite to dinner? She'd be who I would love to invite to dinner.
Yeah, for sure. She's definitely one of the big ones. What about you now? Tell us a little bit about what you've got coming up. What do you see yourself doing in Hollywood? Going with all this. Well, that movie was the big deal that you did. You can talk about that too. Talk about that a little bit first. So preface that with
Okay.
Color
Well,
Out of Space.
okay, Color Out of Space. So I did a movie called La Mère de Crapaud, The Mother of Toads, which was part of Theater Bizarre.
Saw it.
Back in what?
I saw that with you. I watched it. It was awesome.
Only you would have been like, why do you have the seal of Solomon there? And I was
Yeah.
you're the only one who's noticed. So after Theater Bizarre did fairly well and did a lot of festivals in Europe, and it was the producers of Theater Bizarre came up 2 months ago. I was living at the time and asked me and my ex-partner if we would do Color Out of Space. And I was like, you don't want to do Color Out of Space? I'm like, you don't want to do this color that's beyond the human spectrum. Like, you want to do Dreams of the Witch House. Let's do Dreams of the Witch House. Let's do the Dunwich horror. And they were like, no, we really want Color Out of Space. And I was like, okay. So we started working on it. And, like we had a really cracking opening, and then it kind of wasn't working. And we started working on this other documentary, The Other World. And we had this really, really talented, great cinematographer, Kareem Hussein, just did a movie, Possessor, which you are gonna fucking love. You need to watch this movie. It's like making top 10 lists everywhere. It was so excellent. It's Brandon Cronenberg, David Cronenberg's son. So Kareem was at our house, and I remember like we did a read through, and then we were talking, and all of a sudden we were talking about how the color works. And once I started thinking about it as this infection that turns everyone into the worst possible versions of themselves, and that it completely destroys the family dynamic, it kind of went from there. And so we had a script, and it ended up not getting made. And then it was at, it was at a whole bunch of different production companies had it for a while. And then Spectrovision picked it up. But they had it for a while. And then all of a sudden I got like, the email of like, oh, they're making this, sign the contract. And I was like, sure. All right, great. Fantastic. And it had been written originally like something we're going to film in our backyard. And then find out like, oh, Nicolas Cage is in it, and it's got this major cast. And it was a big. It was
great. Laura Dern. Wasn't Laura Dern the mom?
No, it wasn't Laura Dern.
No, not Laura Dern. Who was it?
It's the woman from Nip Tuck, and I can't.
Yeah, she reminds me of Laura Dern. That's why.
Yeah. I say that. And I'm sorry that I'm so terrible with remembering it. Yeah.
But I love Nicolas Cage. I think if you give Nicolas Cage the right script, he's great.
It's so funny. Like,
I like him.
I was like, the highlight of my screenwriting career is Nicolas Cage yelling "motherfucker" in the car. It's such a great scene.
That's so great. And the Packers.
And the alpacas. Yeah.
The alpacas.
It's so fun. The alpacas like came about because I had been at this huge like food thing in Chicago. I worked at this advertising company for a little bit. And when I was at this, it's like at McCormick Place, and all of the food people from all over the world come to this thing. And so I was covering it for this advertising agency, and I met up with some chef friends of mine who were there, and we ended up hanging out with Pete from Pete's Wicked Ale. Like there's actual Pete. And then I decided that we would go sample the fine scotches. And that was right next to like the exotic meat row. And they had alpaca meat, and above their thing it said future. And so
they eat them?
Yeah. And so the meat of the future thing always stayed with me. And so we decided that we needed, to have the animals in there. And I was like, oh my God, we have to put the alpacas in there. And then we started watching these YouTube alpaca videos. Like you give, they've only got teeth in the front. So you give them apples, and like they're gnawing on the apples, and apples like spitting out the sides of their mouth. And it's so funny.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Was it intimidating working on it? Something that you would have to adapt from Lovecraft? I mean, that's Lovecraft.
Oh, yeah.
That's like a Bible,
Yeah, that's super, super intimidating. But, like once we figured out, had pulled it apart and figured out the dynamics, and knowing some of the stuff that was going to go in there, I felt pretty confident that that even though it's a modern adaptation, that is pretty true to the tone of what the story, Color of Space is just a short story. Like it's not. And so, yeah.
So I don't mean to cut you off, but I
No,
want to ask you about Color Out of Space. It's supposed to be a color that we don't know.
Yeah, it's beyond the human.
So why was it that color? Why was it pink?
I think because when you have like, like the different ends of the color spectrum, you've got infrared, and then you've got you come out at that whatever the white
Ultraviolet.
Ultraviolet. I think they were trying to go for the ultraviolet as being like the full end. But yes, the color that is beyond human spectrum is magenta.
Magenta. That's right. That's not bad. Hey, let's go to a question. I've got so many people asking questions to you, so let me get them up here and we'll see what they say.
Excellent. You can let me interview you next time.
People know too much about me already. Chanel, she's your student and mine. Hi, Chanel. You're awesome. Always go to the Starbucks over in Burbank, off of Hollywood Way and Verdugo. It's her Starbucks. It's the best one. She's got a question. Are there any classes that you're going to be teaching coming up?
Yes, but I haven't put it together yet. I've been busy and I've had like a lot of things, but yes, I am hopefully maybe even getting a series together. I apologize, but I have to get my stuff together.
Okay. Here's a good question. Questions for Scarlett. Christy Giglio asks, Scarlett, can you walk us through a day of your life or a week of your life as a witch? And what are your typical rituals and spells? What are they like?
That's a good question. It depends on what time of the month it is. That's one thing, because if it's dark moon, then we're going to do Depnon. If it's full moon, I don't usually do like a lot of charging of stuff, because I don't really, unless it's stuff that I'm going to sell, because I don't really charge that way. But I do give wine to all of my deities. But for me, I always keep dream journals. I also will keep sigil journals too. So when I wake up, I'm immediately like drawing out a figure. And then I actually don't write down my dreams anymore. I talk them into the phone because it's a lot easier for me. And then I just transcribe them.
You got to get a hold of that phone.
It's actually, no, it's just the notes.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And you just push the microphone and I just talk straight into it. And then I don't lose anything, which I really like that. So that's, what I'll start with. And then I do the Hecatean work, which is like a whole call out to her, and depending on what I'm doing that day, then there's different aspects of her that I'll work with. Like I knew I was coming on this today, and so I worked with the Graces, as that's conducive to what we're doing today. But getting ready for writing, I will go and I do a lot of hiking, and I'm lucky to live up in the mountains, and so I'll go for a walk, and that's just to like clear everything away from me. And so that's one of the things, like I have rituals that I use when I get ready to write. The other thing is I'll go and bathe and use the rosemary to like scrape everything so that I'm completely energetically clean. When I write, I'm always burning incense. I've got certain music that I use.
Really?
Writing is very important to me. It's something that I do every day, and I treat with importance. It's my job. But
like Fields of Nephilim playing in the background. And
I love it. Of course.
Fields of the Nephilim was playing in the background, some Christian death, whatever.
Yeah. Oh yeah, of course. But and then depending if it's dark moon, we go up to I always go up to the crossroads and I leave Depnon for Hekate. And I have very specific foods that I leave out for her. And I always say thank you. I say thank you for your protection, thank you for your love, thank you for opening doors, thank you, for allowing me to be to work with you and to have a relationship with you, and thank you for keeping those around me protected. And you know, then we also have our own kind of dark moon ritual stuff. So that's more like what a day-to-day. I'm not like out there. I don't do as much spell casting as you do, you know. But it's because it goes, you know, my main job is my writing, and so my writing is as ritualistic as can possibly be.
But you're also a really amazing horse trainer. That's your other job.
That
So you work with animals constantly. You have a lot that you do. You do a lot of great things.
yeah.
So, and do you ever, I don't mean to just to be a silly question, but do you ever see aspects of magic and witchcraft coming into when you're working with the energy of an animal like that?
Of course. In fact, that's so I'm a dressage trainer, but I'm also a biomechanics expert. And one of the things that allows me to be so good at that is because I can access, you know, in sports psychology, they call it the zone, where it's, you go to that area. It's the same thing in witchcraft, where suddenly like words don't exist anymore. All it is action and reaction. And it's the same thing in writing and working with the horses is being able to step into that realm very quickly. Whether your brainwaves change or whatever, it's a magical space. And it's the same space that you go to in magic. I see them as very much the same. And I think having grown up writing dressage and having grown up accessing this place all the time, that's what allows me magically to be able to access it very quickly. Like, I'm very familiar with that territory.
Wow. Jackie's got a question for you, actually. Jackie's one of our shadow cast. She's in charge of getting us all our questions, and she's got one for you. It's not magical. It's actually because Jackie's a screenwriter as well. She wants to know, what is your inspiration for writing? What kind of stories would you like to tell, given complete creative freedom?
Oh, wow. That's a great question. You know, I love supernatural stories. And so anything that has to do with witchcraft and the supernatural, and I like spooky atmospheric stuff. You know, like, I am not a slasher person at all. Like, even Suspiria is a little bit too much of a slasher for me. That doesn't interest me. But the supernatural stuff is really what interests me. And I've been really lucky that, you know, even the books that I've written have been a mixture of Basque mythology, which I love, mixed with 16th century witchcraft, like taking those things and mixing them together. I'm working on a project now with Adria, who is a friend of Adria Lang, who's a friend of Sal and I. That is like, it's an absolute, I can't talk too much about it, but it's an absolute dream project. Like, I'm beyond excited about it. Because it has to do with monsters, but it also has to do with like the stories of women that you thought you knew, but you didn't really know, who may be monsters themselves. Like, you really get to dive.
You writing about my ex? You're totally writing about
yeah.
Romanian in this?
But like, you know, really diving into this monstrous feminine archetype is super fun.
Wow.
So yeah, I mean, given free reign too, I would love to do a short, like, you know, I've been looking at adapting this, and I'm going to be talking about Algernon Blackwood at the Magical Fiction Conference in London in February, but I'm going to be doing it online. But I would love to adapt one of his stories for a short like that. I would love that as my first directing gig. And I'm gonna see about making that happen in the next couple of years.
That's very cool.
Yeah, out of all the weird, you know, fiction writers, like, Algernon Blackwood is my guy. I just love his work so much. And, you know, like, I have great admiration of Lovecraft, but Algernon Blackwood, when I read his work, I get this feeling that he was there. Do you know that he experienced these things? It's just, there's an authenticity to it that just rings so true to me.
Wow, very cool. I guess the other question I want to ask you, and then we can just start talking about the things that we do together. So just so you know, sometimes this show goes between 8 and 8:30, and I like writing it out, so I'm in no rush to get off of here.
Yeah, I can't imagine.
So I like to talk. And you have a lot of great things to say, so I think we should keep sharing. But so our relationship is one of our commonalities is Hekate. Super important. You know, I preach her sermon every day of my life. It's what I do. I am 100% hers. But what is it about Hekate you think that is bringing her into the light so much more than now than ever?
I think
men and women, not just women.
No, I know. I mean, I don't know if she's just putting more of a calling out there. You know what I'm saying? Like things can be cyclical sometimes, but I think also like, you know, most people grow up with, especially females, and you know, grow up with the Virgin Mary, who's very one-toned. And so I think that you're looking for a female archetype that, you know, encompasses, you know, benevolence and malevolence. And with all of her different aspects, she's so much more than just purity. That I think that people are searching for that authenticity in a deity. And I think that she provides that. And she's strong. You know, like everyone's looking for that strength, you know, like, and, you know, I find that I don't know, like a lot of people either head toward her, or they head toward Lilith, but I think that they're looking for something more than what's been offered for the last 1,000 years.
Yeah.
You know?
For sure. I mean, she's such a force to be reckoned with, you know, and she's amazing to learn from.
Yeah, and
I'm very blessed.
The thing is, though, Hekate has tradition behind her. She's older than the Olympians. You know what I'm saying? When you go into her mythologies, she's one of the earliest, strongest ones. You know, her and the Magna Mater. It's not like she has only been around for 100 years. She's been around since
like 400 BC or something. Yeah.
Since we could, you know, first start talking about what it is that we worship, and I think having that kind of lineage and longevity, like there's a lot of credence to her worship, and there's a lot of facets to it too. You know, and sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, and I think she's more of an archetype that appeals to people that are looking not just for that mothering aspect, but also like the pushing aspects, and maybe even some of the darker aspects. You know, I'm
not afraid of it.
No, and to not be afraid of it. And you know, I love that she's a chthonic goddess. I think
the chthonic realm is so amazing.
I know. I think the chthonic realm is so important. I think, especially as a woman and men too, you know, being able to connect with her in that way is super, super important. It's just the same way as working with your ancestors and working, you know, in those kind of darker, deeper ways. It makes for a deeper kind of practice.
What would you say are some great starter points when working with her?
Some great what?
Starter points for people that want to start looking into her.
I think, you know, even just having like a basic altar setup where you've got white, black, and red candles, maybe going and taking walks and finding, you know, certain plants or whatever that are sacred to her, you know, oaks, dandelions, you know, starting to gather these things and just starting to kind of form a relationship. Write what do you call it? I knew I was gonna forget the name. You know, like write a dedication to her. It doesn't have to be long, but it's between you and her, and start to facilitate a relationship. Even if it's just a like, hey, I want to work with you. Hey, you know, like I'm here, I'm willing, I'm receptive. You know, start to keep a dream journal and see what comes to you.
What about book-wise?
I think book-wise, probably any of Sarita's stuff is really is a really great place to start. I mean, because it gives you a lot of the historical too. One of my favorite books on Hekate is the Thracian magic one, but that's a dense book. But I love that book so much.
There's one that Jason Miller talks about, and I think the author's name is Ronan, and it's the goddess Hekate. It came out in the 70s, and it's a really great treatise on her, but it's out of print, so it's really hard to find. Yeah. And I'm trying to find that really, I'm really searching for that. But I don't know, it's just some pointers from people, because I mean, every day we've got people asking. But I guess for the last part of the segment, I think we should talk about some of the stuff that you and I do in our experiences together.
Okay.
I mean, you and I have our own side world, just for my crowd. Whenever I do a lot of physical workings, or whenever I'm working on house cleansings, banishings, when I'm working on people, and I have clients that need physical work done in circle, Scarlett is my partner. She is the only person I do that with. We work really well together. We've had some great experiences together with it. We've had some pretty crazy ones. And, like, what are your thoughts on some of the workings that we do? I mean, some of the experiences you've had without naming names. I mean, there's some pretty crazy ones.
I mean, it's always very interesting to me, because I usually go in pretty cold. I think one of the most amazing ones was the water one, with how I just immediately I was like, whoa, I don't know what happened here, but something bad went down, and you did something bad, and it was like, just that kind of stuff. But I think you and I work really well because we have such good polarity, and
I trust you implicitly.
Yeah, and I can also allow you to go out and do what you need to do and really get out there, and that I can pull you back.
Yeah.
And so like we just, like I have that calm-centeredness, and you are able to access like that chaotic other part of it, and I think that that's what makes it so strong.
And like it's so, like the last one we did, I mean, I was screaming and throwing stuff and yelling, and I mean, like anybody else in ritual would have freaked out, because and Scarlett knows better than anybody else magically, even my wife. I mean, I go there, and where I'm at, and I'm safe going there. And I know that you're behind me, so it's good, because otherwise I go deep,
Well, you know what? That needed to be broken. And I was like, dun, 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 dun. Oh, there he goes. And pooh, yeah, he broke it. It's dead.
I just freaked out.
I went flying backwards. I was like, uh-oh. I'm like, oh, it's all good. It's all good. It's all good.
Yeah, I'm starting to throw stuff. Literally, I'm just knocking stuff all over the altar and freaking out. I mean, it's amazing. But what about our house cleansings? I mean, I think our remedy for cleansing people's homes is good. It works out really well. We have great results from it.
Yeah. No, it's been super potent. And I think that that's something people should utilize more. Like I do it in my personal space all the time. If I start feeling stuck, or I start getting depressed or cranky, the first thing that I do is whip out the Florida water and the rose water, and I go to, I go to work on this place, get stuff out. And I think people just don't think about utilizing that. The same thing, you move into a new house, have somebody come in and bless the place for you and get rid of anything that might be lingering. Like it's an important thing to do. I think that it's an important service, and everyone that we've worked for, it's been a great result.
Yeah. We're so hands-on when we get in there. It gets so real. It's not just BS. I mean, I remember one time we were doing a house. These people had just moved into this really beautiful home. And I started, and you were like, don't aspergillate too much. And I was throwing Florida water, and then we looked around, it looked like it was staining the paint job of the house, but it came right off. But I was like, oh my God, what have I done? And I'm taking off my shirt because it was summertime, and I'm wiping it down, running around this person's house, but it saved it. But yeah, I mean, they love it though. It helps them.
It does. And like, I love that when we worked for, I'm not going to say who it was, but he's a fairly famous guitarist. Like, we were able to also hide all of the money spells in there for him. And like, there's all the protection stuff that they don't even know. The other great thing is that you and I have such a good sense of what we're doing. We so know our stuff that like I don't have to be
Go like that. We go off and do our thing.
you go do your thing, I go do my thing, and then like we know exactly what needs to be done. It's not like, hey, what do I need to do? What do I need to do? What do I need to do? And we just go in and get it done.
Yeah.
And it works.
Very
right.
important.
Yeah.
It does. It's great. It's great getting to work with you along that stuff. But yeah, I mean,
when your
so I think
takes off my nail polish.
yeah, you know. But so we're getting through COVID. Looks like soon, hopefully. Got to get back to Europe. I mean, I want to see Europe. I haven't officially said this yet, but I'm gonna put the bee in the bonnet out there. One of my friends just bought a 20-room mansion in a little small town in Massachusetts. And I'm talking with her, and next Hallows, I'm trying to put together a project. I'm going to sit down and talk with you about it and with Popey and logistically get it out, but go out there and go ahead and actually do like some haunted tour stuff. But I'm not talking about haunted tours like, oh, the guy with the top hat and the hearse is going to drive you around a graveyard again. I want to take them to places in New England and do ritual in the woods. And this house has some really creepy vibes in it from like 1890 to 1900. And in the floor of one of these rooms in the basement, there's a wine cellar with a trap door, and the door opens up, and they found a Daughters of Eastern Star pentagram put into the floor.
Lovely.
Yeah, so he's already cool with it. So I want us to do that. That's going to be like something I want to do next fall.
Definitely. Like around Halloween, around Samhain.
Yeah, and her house is joined to the old graveyard. So we can actually go into the graveyard and do ritual there too.
Nice.
You know. But I mean, the tour that we did in France, I mean, you opened up a place for us all. And that was amazing.
Places that I would love to show you too. Like next time we have to go a week early before the tour, so we can go to the like.
As long as I don't have to eat duck faces, I'm okay. Or crabs or any paellas or anything like that. There's some weird food. I freaked out. You got a question. Let's see.
What is it?
Jackie. Let's see. Jackie. What was the first working ritual? Wow. Danielle. It's from Danielle.
Oh.
Danielle in her cute little house across the country that we miss.
I know, and her beautiful cat.
I know. We still have your plants. She wants to know what was the first working or ritual that we did together? I think it was the Sacred Fires. No, it was before that.
No, it was before that. I think
with Trig.
Yeah, I think it was a Hecatean ritual we did with Trig.
Wasn't that the dedication that we did?
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think that was it. I think it was the dedication
and I was like flipping out on the floor and I was being like a snake.
Yeah.
Was that the same one?
That was the same one.
Yeah. So yeah, it was definitely, we did dedications to Hekate.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that was the first, I believe. And then Sacred Fire would have been after that.
Yeah, then we did Sacred Fire right after that. And then
we did, no, that's not true. You know what? But after the dedication, we did a working. I remember doing some kind of burning ritual, and I think it was on one of Hekate's days in November, and we did a small working then.
Oh, yes.
You had the Manischewitz.
My Manischewitz, my blackberry Manischewitz.
Like, you can't use Manischewitz as ritual wine. You were like, here you go.
Yeah, everybody else was freaking out. It's like cough syrup. That was rad.
Yes.
But yeah, I think that was one of the first ones.
Yeah.
It was, and then that dedication was really, really cool. Yeah. And then we started working on some concepts together from there, I think, is where it started. And what was our first house cleansing?
I'm not sure when that was.
Was it the bass player?
Yeah, I think it was. And then I think the first Sacred Fires we did was the one at Cloak and Dagger.
Oh my God. And I knocked that girl over.
You what?
Remember we did the ritual and then I did ritual and the girl passed out in front of me.
Oh, wait, she did? That was it. Wait, that was Sacred
Wasn't that
Fire.
Cloak and Dagger? Yeah, it was. I think that was the Sacred Fire. Well, did we do more than one ritual at Cloak and Dagger?
We did Sacred Fires, and we did that out in the parking lot, remember?
Yeah. Yeah, that's where the girl fell over.
Oh, okay. And then we did that cleansing that got completely out.
Don't look at me.
And then
I get fucked up, man.
We were never asked back ever again.
Like we bring the shit, you know. It wasn't like some goofy ass goddess ritual. We went off.
I was like, you know what? You went for it. I was like, oh my gosh.
It was like so intense because the something happened and you had to pull me out. Didn't something happen? Yeah. Like on the floor in between the adjoining room, and the room was dripping water. And
there was something terrible in there though. Like it was really bad. And like you got its attention and you accessed it. And I was like, we are not prepared. We are aborting mission right now.
Like LBRPs. I was like trying to whip up LBRPs and I remember shit happening. I got all ceremonial on it. Yeah. That was intense. That was some intense stuff, man.
Yeah.
Cloak and Dagger. That's right.
That's I just remember the next day feeling like I had been hit by the magic bus. I was like, oh. It's true.
But so you have anything in the works that you want to talk about? Anything else coming up? Anything to plug? Anything cool stuff like that? We're good. You froze. Uh-oh. Ladies and gentlemen, I think we froze. I don't know what's going on. I've got Scarlett with her eyes closed. Oh my God, did I point a finger at her? Sorry, just kidding. I don't know what happened. Did we lose Scarlett? She froze. Let's see. Maybe we should sign her out and sign back in because I would like to say goodbye to her. Want to try? Yeah, she'll come back on in a second. So guys, that's Scarlett Amaris. I'm going to get her back in to say goodbye to us. If you can just bear with us. What a crazy way to end the new year. Oh, there's her chair. Looks like Scarlett disappeared. There she is.
My router just dropped. Sorry.
Ah, that's cool. So we're here. But yeah, I mean, is there anything? Wow. Lost you again.
Am I not there?
You are now.
Okay. How weird. I just restarted. Why?
Lost it.
It's gone. My neighbor.
Are you there?
It'll take 2 minutes.
It's okay.
I am. Can you hear me?
Yep. So I know what I wanted to ask you. Did you see anything cool in the desert?
I'm sorry?
You recently went to the desert. Weren't you guys looking for something out there? Didn't you go out to the desert to see some cool spaces?
We did. We actually went out to the Mojave National Desert, and we went into the lava tubes.
Wow.
They very the solstice where the lights come down through, and then we went to Shaman, which is this rock formation that has the sun shines through it at 3:30 on winter solstice.
I'm losing you. You know what we could try to do? Kill your camera, but leave your voice so we can hear you. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Let me see what I can do.
Can we hear you now?
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yeah. So tell us about that.
Okay. So we went out to the Mojave Desert, and there's all kinds of absolutely amazing stuff out there. And so we went and we went to the lava tubes, which they do this kind of
Guys, I'm losing her. Sorry, I hate to end it like this, but we'll give her one more chance to come back. There she is.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. So we went to the lava tubes, but out in the desert too, they have what's called the Eye of the Shaman, and you have to off-road to get to it. But on the winter solstice, it's like a hole up in this rock formation, and the sun shines through it. But unfortunately, we took the wrong path, and so because it's not like there's not good access to it. It's very hard to find. There's no like direct directions to it. So we kind of missed it. But yeah, it's pretty. There's absolutely so much fascinating stuff out there.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So at this point, Scott, I think we should probably stop because we are losing a lot of, this is just messing up on my end now too. But thank you so much for being our guest.
Okay. Thank you.
This was a really great thing, and getting to interview you this way has been amazing. So thank you.
Sorry about the technical difficulties there.
Well, at the end, now it seems to be fine, but at the end it was going off. But so we got a whole year we got a new year coming in on 2021. It was great having you as my first guest. I mean, that was awesome.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. And it will be up by tomorrow on YouTube Live. So I'm going to go ahead and let you out, and then I'm going to say goodbye to my people, and I'll catch up with you soon.
All right. Thank you, Sal.
Right. Bye, Scarlett.
Bye.
Okay, guys, this is me. I'm going to go ahead and sign off. Renee, we miss you. Thank you for hanging in. This was absolutely an amazing interview. It's the first time I ever interviewed somebody, so first time for everything, but it was a good one. Thank you guys for coming in and tuning in again. I hope this finds you well. Have a wonderful, safe new year. And I will see you in a week, and see you in 2021. This is Sal. This is Betwixt the Shadows, and I am out of here.